What's going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day, whenever you're watching this. We're going to be jumping into the SCP universe here with the Exploring series. We're going to be checking out a video exploring the SCP Foundation Anomalous Diseases. So I guess this is going to be kind of one of his summary videos going all around talking about some of the various anomalous diseases that have cropped up in various SCP stories. I would assume 610 is probably going to be in this. That's the most famous one that I can think of. The only other one that I know of off the top of my head, there's one that involves turning people into zombies, but I don't know that I've gotten into that SCP yet. I've just heard it referenced in other SCP stories. So I guess we'll see what happens when we get into this. So links, as always, will be down below in the description to the original video and the Exploring series channel. So please do me a favor, if you enjoy this as we go through it, be sure to go over to his channel and give this video a like. Hit that sub button on his channel if you haven't already. Makes a lot of great content for the SCP universe. Show the man some love. If you'd like to join us as I'm doing these reactions live, which I am right now with my YouTube members, I'd love to have you guys come in and hang out and join our discussions before, during, after these videos. So yeah, there's a link in the description as well as a join button underneath the video. So if you want to take your sport to the next level, you can check all that stuff out. With all that said, let's jump into this here. Again, exploring the SCP Foundation with the Exploring series Anomalous Diseases. Let's go.
Anomalous Diseases. The human body is a miraculous thing, capable of incredible feats of strength, dexterity, endurance, and agility. Despite this, humans can be brought to debilitation and death by the smallest of organisms.
Very true.
Infectious agents are terrifying aspects of life, even in the real world, but in the SCP universe, they can be responsible for some truly horrific diseases.
Yeah.
That's what we'll be looking at today. Anomalous diseases cataloged and contained by the SCP Foundation. Some of the most well-known diseases won't be mentioned here, as I've covered them before, such as SCP-610.
Yep.
And I also won't be looking at any sort of mental contagions that only alter someone's way of thinking.
Makes sense.
First, I'd be remiss if I didn't include SCP-008, a complex prion with 100% infectiousness, 100% lethality, transmissible through exposed mucous membranes and bodily fluids. That, of course, would be bad enough, but it's the symptoms of the disease that are really bad. It begins with flu-like symptoms with a high fever leading into severe dementia, then a coma.
So I think this might be the zombie one that I was thinking of before, but we'll see here.
About 20 hours after symptoms appear, leading to death. A period of cellular necrosis breaks out, with surviving tissue assuming its original function and becoming highly resilient. Red blood cells greatly increase their oxygen storage capacity, resulting in slower blood flow throughout the body and increased muscle endurance and strength. The nervous and muscular systems are otherwise unaffected, but the subject's metabolism may decrease to extremely low levels, allowing a subject to survive afterwards for over 10 years without nutrition.
Wow.
Their high blood viscosity results in negligible blood flow from injuries, and their motor controls, behavioral mechanisms, and cognitive abilities are severely degraded. This leaves a subject capable of only basic physical activities, such as walking, crawling, grabbing, and biting. They will move towards anything the subject associates with living humans, and will attempt to consume any live humans they come into contact with. Neutralization of the subject requires significant cranial trauma.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so it's just a zombie virus, but it's a classic SCP that really combines the scientific nature of the SCP Foundation with the anomalous horror of the SCP universe. It's not incredibly original, but it's no surprise at all that the Foundation has some samples of it kept in a lab somewhere. Moving on to something a bit more original, though, with SCP-016, a pathogen uncovered during a mining operation when a miner injured himself while working in a deep coal seam. The pathogen was able to spread and infect the rest of the workers over the next few days, as well as the CDC crisis team sent in to deal with the problem.
Yikes.
When the Foundation came in, they terminated everyone infected except for the original worker, and sealed the mine shaft.
Kind kind of gives me Greylock vibes, which I'm looking very much forward to whenever we actually get the next video in that series. I've seen some announcements where they're working on it. But yeah, the last Greylock video, if any of you guys are out there, you're watching this, you enjoy kind of like analog horror stuff. If you haven't seen Greylock, you should watch that series. I think it's 12 videos at the moment, and they're working on the next one. And the last one left off on a very interesting note. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. But this story is kind of reminding me of that, because that's kind of what Greylock goes into a little bit with, you know, some kind of construction mining situation happening in a mountain that then kind of goes paranormal.
Symptoms of SCP-016 start by resembling the common cold, leading into a hemorrhagic fever 48 hours later as the infected begins to cough up aerosolized blood, which spreads the pathogen.
Aerosolized blood?
After
Jeez.
this, the subject starts to bleed profusely from every bodily orifice, and their blood pressure skyrockets, in some cases involuntarily vomiting blood to distances of over 5 meters.
What?
Should the subject actually manage to survive this stage, the pathogen will become dormant again, only to activate sometime in the next day to 2 years. Even more notable, if an infected subject undergoes a period of high stress, such as a life-threatening situation, the pathogen will instead begin rewriting the host's DNA and stimulate rapid cell division. This causes a host body to rapidly mutate in a time span of 24 hours to 2 weeks, in a way that would help the host to survive the situation. Ironically, the rapid bodily changes often causes the host to die anyway.
Right. Sounds very The Thing-esque, right? The pathogen, whatever it is, has almost some kind of intelligence and is trying to not only spread to other things, but is trying to survive in the host body and will force mutations in the host body in order to create a better environment to help it survive. Although oftentimes killing the host in the process.
These transformations also alter the host's mentality, making them far more aggressive, possibly to hasten the spread of the virus.
Yeah.
Testing with some D-class infected with the pathogen and placed in life-threatening situations showed that the pathogen might differ in their responses to the same situation. The containment cells of 2 D-class were slowly filled with water over a 24-hour period after they were infected. 1 D-class's lungs mutated into gills, allowing it to survive for a further 2 weeks in the water.
Wow.
But they died after all the water was drained and they asphyxiated.
Yeah. Okay.
The pathogen of the other D.
So yeah, it mutated them to breathe underwater, but then it couldn't, I guess, change back to breathe oxygen out of the water.
Class caused its host's muscles to rapidly grow and the bones of his knuckles to expand. The D-class attempted to escape by punching through the reinforced steel cell door, but failed to do so and drowned.
Yep.
The cell of a third D-class was also filled slowly with water, but this D-class had a background in chemical engineering. During the crisis, the pathogen caused the subject to grow an unusual organ on his chest, consisting of a chamber and 2 separate tubes. The organ took in water and swelled in size, and since it seemed that the organ was going to function as some sort of explosive, the D-class was terminated by gunshot.
Yikes.
Another D-class was infected and told to concentrate on growing wings, with no stress applied, but nothing happened.
They're doing experiments on D-classes to try to get them to, like, force mutations that they want. Well, that's pretty messed up, dude.
And the subject died of exsanguination. A 5th D-class was also told
Exsanguination, sanguineous wings. I see where they're going.
to concentrate on growing wings, but was placed in an acrylic box above a mine shaft, and was told the box would drop after a timer went off. The pathogen mutated the D-class's body, but instead of growing wings, he grew a tentacle-like organ on his wrist that extruded a silk-like substance, and used it to secure the box to the cable. The D-class died when the timer hit 0 and a bomb was detonated.
Nice.
Not quite as ostentatious, but still terrifying, is SCP-020. a fungal organism that somehow is invisible to direct observation, only visible through
Interesting.
photographic or video surveillance. The fungi spread rapidly, and when rooted in someone's home, will begin to produce spores that affect the humans living in the home. Infected subjects will increase the heat and humidity of the home to make it more suitable for fungal growth, and they will also become more sociable, often inviting people into their home to spread the fungus.
Yeah, to spread it.
Eventually, the growth of the organism will reach a point where the health of humans inside of the home rapidly deteriorates.
This is Nathan Drake? Like, what is this? It looks like Nathan Drake, this picture.
Leading to death. The fungi, of course, still reside in the corpses, unseen to emergency responders and other healthcare officials.
Of course, and then they get
leading
infected.
to further spread.
SCP-020
was first discovered in a hospital by an undercover agent who noticed dramatic personality changes in the personnel. Further investigation revealed that a majority of the town was infected, leading the Foundation to incinerate the entire town.
Nuked aside from orbit.
Not every anomalous disease features an insidious and slow degradation towards death, of course. SCP-081 is a virus spread through intercourse, exposure to infected blood, and through rats, who act as passive carriers. There is a 1-week incubation phase before initial symptoms commence, starting only with the subject feeling slightly tired for a week. In the next week, subjects will begin to experience hot flashes and an increased appetite, followed by a period of extreme polyphagia. The infected will do anything in their power to obtain food, or anything that's edible, as their metabolism slows down significantly, leading to rapid weight gain. This continues until a subject possesses 55% body fat, at which point their urge to eat will stop, but their hot flashes will increase in frequency.
55% body fat.
Soon afterwards, their body will go through an extremely violent version of widespread cell lysis, as their body incinerates itself using fat as a fuel source.
So is this like the SCP's explanation for spontaneous human combustion? Right? They get infected with this virus, it causes them to eat, and then the virus raises their blood temperature to a point where they just combust,
resulting in what is commonly called spontaneous human combustion.
Interesting. That's kind of an interesting take, you know, just the idea that, because spontaneous human combustion is something that you don't hear much about, but I guess had happened in the past, you know, where people just literally just set on fire or something like that mysteriously, and I guess they can like it can reach temperatures hot enough to like actually burn down bone, but I guess also at the same time not catch anything on fire around them. Like those are some of the stories that I've heard. I haven't really heard anything about that in like forever, you know. But it's an interesting idea. An SCP anomaly that is a virus that they get infected with that causes this to happen. And it's an interesting take.
It's believed that SCP-081 has existed since the 10th century, but because of widespread poverty and malnutrition in many European countries at the time, most cases didn't proceed to the 4th stage. Conversely, due to the obesity epidemic in the US currently, it's theorized that a wide-scale breakout of the virus would be disastrous. Mosquitoes are one of the most notorious vectors for spreading harmful diseases, from yellow fever to malaria. SCP-149 is a specific breed of mosquito that carries a strain of retrovirus which mutates human cells into fertilized mosquito eggs.
Yikes.
The first set of cells that mutate resemble cysts, concentrated in the...
So what you're saying is you get bit by a mosquito and then your entire body essentially turns into mosquito eggs. That's what it sounded like he said.
The lining of the esophagus and the sinuses. Dissecting these cysts reveals them to be filled with mosquito larvae, and by the time a subject feels the effects of the virus, the first generation of these mosquitoes have already fully grown. The mosquitoes typically leave the host's body through the mouth and nostrils, but occasionally exit through the eye sockets.
Yeesh.
As expected, infection by SCP-149 is invariably fatal. Finally, we have SCP-2559, which, although it doesn't only affect an individual's mind, it does spread through thoughts. Basically, if someone believes that they have been infected by SCP-2559, they will become infected. There is no other known way of spreading the virus.
Interesting.
Within 5 hours...
So then how would you think that how would you become to believe that you're infected with it, right? You know? Is this supposed to be like, I forget the term, right? There's some kind of term or fear or phobia where people just think they're always sick or infected with something, right? So like people that have that phobia essentially manifest it in the form of this SCP. Is that essentially what it would come down to? Or it would be something a little bit more insidious where like someone is going around making people believe they're infected with it, posing to be maybe a doctor or something like that, and then they are in fact becoming infected with it, you know, something like that. That would be interesting.
Of infection, 2559 can be found in the host's cerebral spinal fluid and in their blood within 2 days. Symptoms of the virus vary wildly, but commonly include increased intracranial pressure, leading to tunnel vision, convulsions, mental disability, strokes, and death. Restriction of blood supply to various organs and tissues, leading to necrosis, gangrene, and strokes. Extreme negative reactions to water, food, sun, heat, cold, or various medications.
That is definitely some
and a number of
John Carpenter
disorders,
the Thing stuff here.
Most commonly segmental vitiligo. So far, infection is proved to cause a 100% mortality rate, with continuous medical treatment only capable of extending life expectancy up to 5 years. Prior to 1995, there had been regular outbreaks every 3 to 4 years, although it is yet to be determined what caused these outbreaks. The first confirmed outbreak occurred in Ireland in 1928, resulting in the deaths of 43 civilians. Investigation agents determined the infection to be non-anomalous, until a similar outbreak occurred in Iceland in 1933. It's suspected that a case of mass hysteria in Australia in 1889 might actually be the first outbreak. During the outbreak in Iceland in 1933, 3 junior researchers were infected, leading to 12 more researchers becoming infected upon their return to a Foundation site. Within a few months, 20% of the site's staff had been found to be infected. A few months after this, the radio control room of the site began to broadcast an unauthorized message filled with spelling mistakes, in which the sender instructs personnel to repeat the phrase "mendacium non verum." 2 minutes later, security apprehended a senior researcher in the radio control room who had learned that the virus spreads through thought. He believed that he could save the lives of uninfected personnel by convincing them that they were memetically inoculated. The phrase "mendacium non verum" was revealed by the researcher to be just a placebo.
I mean, that would make a certain, kind of logical sense, right? Like, if it's a virus that can only infect you if you believe you've been infected with it, then couldn't the cure be something similar along those lines, where if you believe you're no longer infected by it, you would then essentially no longer be infected by it?
As it turns out, he was right, and the memetic inoculation saved the lives of almost 200 researchers, resulting in his promotion to co-director of a Foundation site. We're told that years later, the Foundation learned that placebo memetic inoculation does more harm than good, and the researcher is now classified as an SCP. Things continued as normal for years after the original discovery, with contained regular outbreaks until 1995. On December 25th, 1995, every contained instance of 2559 infected died, the majority of them from major hydrocephalic strokes. The next day, an unscheduled outbreak occurs in Taiwan, with 153 civilian casualties and 30 survivors contained by the Foundation. In 2013, an infected junior researcher in a medically induced coma was found to have developed an unusual pattern of pigmentation on the back of his left hand. As a result of a stroke, he suffers from aphasia, which affects his ability to speak, but he is brought out of the coma to discuss the pigmentation. He reveals that the markings on his hand are identical to a diagram in a book of palmistry that he used to read every morning. The junior researcher suffered a fatal cardiac arrest shortly after, and 12 other contained instances were found to have unusual skin patterns matching the patterns of their hospital gowns.
Interesting.
That same year, a breakout occurred in a town in Connecticut, which went unnoticed for almost a month due to unusually subtle initial symptoms. Most citizens believed it to just be a common cold, until the town doctor contacted the CDC about a highly infectious illness in the town with severely sudden onset of fatal symptoms. The Foundation swooped in and were given an interview afterwards between Dr. Quayle and Private Barnes of the responding MTF. Part of the MTF landed their helicopter in the town square and began to sweep through the town, finding it initially empty. They put on hazmat suits, as the chief medical officer told them it was only a precautionary measure to be better safe than sorry. They found a number of dead bodies with swollen necks from goiters. After breaking into homes, they did find some live subjects, but they found plenty of places trashed, with food all over the kitchens and paper covering the floors. They heard a big commotion coming from the library, and a few members of the MTF went to investigate. They found around 300 infected civilians inside the library, fighting each other over the books. Those that got their hands on the books were eating them by ripping out pages and shoving them in their mouths.
The hell?
The MTF was told that the infection doesn't affect behavior, making it especially confusing. The activity seemed to be centered around a big pile of books, with a large, infected man fighting off anyone who came near. The MTF began working to restrain and remove most of the infected individuals, but everything went wrong when one of the team told the mob that there were more books outside, causing a stampede. Barnes was left alone to deal with the remaining infected inside the library, corralling the rest outside until only the large man is left. Barnes managed to tranquilize the man, but sprained his wrist in the process. Afterwards, he found a young woman underneath the pile of books, who started screaming and attacking him after seeing the large man on the ground. Barnes didn't fight back after noticing that the girl was pregnant, despite him having a record of previously subduing pregnant women. He says that he couldn't help but wonder if it had been his wife or kid, despite not having a wife or kid.
What?
He admits that he wasn't thinking straight, and the girl managed to get his hood off.
Obviously, he's been infected
His teammate came in and had no choice but to treat him as an infected, as it only takes the slightest belief that you are infected to make you infected.
Right.
Barnes gets taken along with the rest of the infected through quarantine, where he notices
Again, like, I would assume I would have to really read the article or go through a video about the article or something like that, but the big question is like, how does this... I mean, it's anomalous, you know, so I mean, I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific explanation, but the question for me would be like, how does this disease like continue to exist, right? Is it something that will always exist and always be there and then just only attach itself to those that believe it, right? Because like otherwise, how else does it continue to be around and spread? You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like there's some kind of, I don't know, subconscious, like, has this disease been around since like the creation of you know, life itself on the planet, and has just existed along with it and only attaches itself to creatures that think they're infected with it? You know what I mean? Like, is it some kind of, you know, otherworldly eldritch creature that just attaches itself and infects to people? You know, I'm trying to think of how like a disease like this could continue to exist if like it only infects people that think they're infected with I would assume this disease specifically. So like, first off, if they don't know it exists, how would they think they're infected with it to begin with, right? That's kind of like a paradox in and of itself, you know? Or if is it just a situation where if they think they're infected with something, even if they're not, you know, this disease will attach itself to them, you know? But either way, right? Like the idea of this disease only affecting people that think they're infected with it. So if no one thinks they're infected with it ever across the planet, like how would it continue to exist? Or unless, again, like it's just something that always exists. And yeah, I don't know. I think I would just have to read the article, because I think it's just a situation where, like, it could be something where disease always exists, but I guess the thing for me is just like, how is it that it is only able to? How is it that people are able to get infected by it if it only infects people that think they're infected with it? Because like, how can you be affected by something if you don't know? Like, if the trigger is thinking you're infected with this disease, how could you be infected with it if you don't know it exists in the first place? You know, that's the thing that's kind of like getting me with this. So maybe there's more of an explanation in the actual article itself. So I'll have to go back and find the number of this SCP and look through. I mean, let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this one too. But anyway, let's continue.
A peculiar birthmark on the girl's chest. He then noticed a man with the exact same mark on his chest, revealed to be the logo of the SCP Foundation.
Interesting.
All of the infected people from the town had the same mark on their chests. Barnes compares the infection to being told that an animal can smell your fear, which only makes you more afraid. The virus slips in through those tiny background worries in a corner of your mind.
Okay.
He talks about one of the pregnant women that he had subdued on another mission, and says that he doesn't really remember her at all outside of brief flashes. The rest of the squad said that he had changed after that mission, seeming lonelier, and he was transferred to another MTF. He doesn't remember the woman because the Foundation wiped his memory of her after her death. It's revealed that the woman was Corporal Tanya Barnes. The virus, then, is obviously not typical, even considering that it spreads through thoughts, but it is, in fact, sentient. It is some sort of...
That's what I was going to say, right? It would have to be some kind of intelligence of some sort, be able to, like, work and continue to exist in this way.
Entity that became associated with things starting with the letters VI, such as virus, tunnel vision, and vitiligo.
Okay.
It can adapt to thoughts and ideas carried by hosts, shown in the skin patterns resembling hospital gowns. When it first cropped up, it wasn't harmful, as it only resulted in a breakout of mass hysteria in Australia, but then it began killing off its hosts. The Foundation has taken to keeping infected alive and contained as long as possible to prevent it from spreading, and obviously the entity has taken an interest in the Foundation by manifesting its logo on people's bodies.
Okay.
It's unclear what exactly...
So, I mean, that answers some of the questions then. So it is, in fact, some kind of entity that spreads this condition, and it's able to attach itself to people through certain kinds of imagery and or letters and words. And then, yeah, okay. So that answers some of the questions that I had.
The entity's goals are, but it doesn't seem to be solely interested in spreading as far as possible. Okay, so I cheated a little bit with the mimetic nature of the last one, but otherwise I hope that this video gave you a proper dose of body horror. In a universe filled with scary stuff, diseases can still be pretty unsettling, as
especially if they're anomalous
reflections of the horrors of the real world. In our universe, we can typically avoid diseases through precaution and cleanliness, but disease is still a long ways from becoming only a fictional horror.
Right, and I mean, what can you do when diseases spread through thought and certain kinds of worry or anxiety, you know? and then it manifests in an actual disease. No quote from the Exploring series on this one. All right, so yeah, that was the Exploring series, exploring the SCP Foundation Anomalous Diseases. Links, as always, will be down below in the description to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring series channel. So please do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to go give it a like. And if you haven't hit that sub button on the Exploring series channel, please go over there and do so. He makes a lot of wonderful content for the SCP universe. There's also, he makes content for other universes, 40k. I think he does some Lord of the Rings stuff. Yeah, so I mean, go over there and check out some of the other content he has if you want to look at some other stuff that he does besides just you know, SCP stuff. But show the man some love. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely other stories that we've gone through here in the channel of other diseases and things like that. Obviously 610 is one of them, probably the most famous one. 008, the zombie virus. I still haven't, I don't think, done an actual video of that, but I mean, it just sounds kind of like an in-universe SCP explanation for a zombie virus. The one that went into the human combustion was a pretty interesting take on human combustion. The idea that, yeah, it's some kind of virus or something along those lines, something virus, bacteria, I don't remember what it said. I think it said it was virus, but essentially, yeah, it infects people, causes them to want to eat, and once their body fat percentage reaches a certain percentage, they essentially will combust, you know. Who knows why? Maybe that's how the virus spreads, is through that combustion. You know, once it infects someone, it needs to do that in order to spread more. But it is an interesting idea and explanation for the human combustion phenomenon, spontaneous combustion phenomenon, I should say. And then the last one, like I said, the thing that was getting me was just like, how can just the paradox of how could something infect you if the only way for you to be infected is if you believe you're infected? But how can you believe you're infected with something if you don't know it exists in the first place, right? Like, if the whole trigger is the belief that you're infected with this specific thing, then how can you be infected with it if you don't know it exists in the first place, you know? But then he further explained that it actually is some kind of entity, sentience in some way, that has now, the Foundation has now gotten its attention, and it's able to essentially creep into people's minds and infect them through certain kinds of thoughts, anxieties, worries, as well as also certain kinds of imagery and letters and iconography, I guess. So and it seemingly over time, you know, originally just manifested itself as like a mass hysteria thing, but over time it's progressed, and symptoms may have gotten worse, and is now having them affecting the behavior of those who it's infected as well. So may have to go back through and just look through that article itself. But I mean, there's all kinds of crazy diseases and things like that in the SCP universe, and I'm sure there's going to be more that we find out as, you know, people write more articles as we go along. So but yeah, that's gonna do it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider leaving a like and a sub. That helps me and the channel grow, and it lets the YouTube algorithm gods know that you enjoy this kind of content and that you would like to see some more on the channel here. There's a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that have the offer. So if you'd like to join us here as I do these reaction live with my YouTube members and take your support to the next level, you can check all that stuff out and see if any of that would have any interest for you. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy, everyone.